You know, I have, like, when you listen to somebody and pass the time, sometimes you forget what that person or taught you. But you have really let, in my particular case, a lot of lessons. And it comes to mind two of them and are related with what you're talking. The first one has to do with what you said yesterday about every student has an A.
Yeah.
And if we start like that,
yeah.
we cannot put the obstacles to become a Ben Zander, no, like you. But well, then I will talk about another lesson about another students that you talk in another conference that they didn't arrive on time to one of your concerts, and you apologize. Could you share with us that?
So what happened with the A was I found many of my students were very anxious, very fearful, very competitive, worried always, am I doing well, is somebody else doing better? And this gesture doesn't make you to play very well, because the music is about love and about humanity and about warmth and nobility. And so we had the idea, she had the idea, to give an A at the beginning of the year, before the class starts. They walk in with an A, and then they have to write a letter describing who they will have become by the following June when the class ends. The other thing was, I became very upset because my students, instead of going to a great concert that I was conducting, and they should have been there, and it was a very important violinist, maybe the greatest violinist in the world, and very exciting, they didn't come, they went shopping, they went to the mall. And I was very angry. And Roz said, remember to apologize. I said, why? What do you mean apologize? What should I apologize? They should have been that they had their tickets. They were keeping other people away. It was sold out. It was irresponsible. She said, remember to apologize. Now, what I then realized, what she was teaching me, was that I hadn't told those students about the great violinist. Ivry Gitlis was the name. I hadn't told them about him and how great he was, the greatest violinist of our time, and that it would be a life-changing experience and they would never forget it as long as they lived. I didn't say that.
That's a lesson
and so
for life.
How can I expect to be? So the lesson is, if somebody doesn't do what you want them to do, you can apologize to them because you didn't enroll them.
Reading one of your books, it's also unforgettable, a passage that you're in a restaurant and you tell the waiter, I am perfect, my life is perfect, not I'm perfect, my life is perfect, but I need a knife.
Yes. Well,
do you enjoy life? What do you mean?
What happened was this. I was having my breakfast with a friend, and we were very happy, very joyous, good conversation. And then the breakfast began. No knife, right? So I called the waitress. I said, waitress, I have a perfect life, but I don't have a knife. So now she goes to get the knife, and there's a girl, 11 years old, at the next table. She hears me. She thinks that's very funny. And so we smile like that at each other. The next day, when I come down to breakfast, she's sitting there. I said, how are you? She said, perfect. So she learned the lesson. Now, the lesson is very interesting. Because when she left with her parents, I was still having my breakfast, she left, and I waved. I said, have a perfect day. She said, I will. So what she realized was whether she had a perfect day or not was entirely up to her. In other words, if she understood that it's all invented anyway. We can say, somebody says, how are you? Said, well, I'm okay. Nobody's interested in the long story of how you are. They're making communication. So if you say to somebody, if somebody says, how are you? Have a good day. And she said, I will. How's your day? Perfect. Then what you're doing is setting up a kind of relationship, which is joyous, which is energized, which is fun-loving, which is open-hearted, and so you've got a different kind of relationship. So it's really that every time you open your mouth, you have an opportunity for leadership. Every single time. Every time a parent opens his mouth, or a mother or a father, to a child, he has an opportunity for leadership. Every time a child looks after an 8-year-old child with a dog, it's the same thing. So the discipline, and this is really important, this is not just, you know, fun-loving stuff. This is a rigorous discipline called the art of possibility. It has to be practiced rigorously, which is that anything you say can either move people towards possibility or move people away into the downward spiral. And the discipline of the leader, whether it's a child, a middle-aged, grown-up, powerful, rich, poor, doesn't matter. Every time we speak, we have this opportunity. And so it's a big responsibility.
When you don't feel well with yourself, because that's human, and sometimes you get angry and sometimes you get frustrated or despair, how it works within yourself?
Well, it's a very good question, and sometimes I slip back, or what I call off track. Is like there's a track,
okay,
and then I go off the track, and we all do that. And the real question is, does it matter? And I tell you something very interesting. I gave a talk, one of these talks in public, and then I arrived at the airport, and they'd given away my seat on the airplane. And in first class, they never do that. I was traveling first class, and I arrived, they said, no, we gave it away. I said, what? And I was very upset because I was tired and a long journey, and I had to go from the West Coast to the East Coast. No, it was all wrong. And so I started, I don't remember what I said, but it wasn't a pretty sight. And then there was a gentleman standing behind me, and he said, I'm sorry I saw that because I really enjoyed your talk. And you know what? We can't afford, we leaders.
I know,
we
a public figure.
We cannot afford. It's like the priest. He cannot behave badly because people are watching. And if the priest behaves badly, people say, that's not so good. And that calls everything in question. So I think we leaders, and I mean by that every adult, really, we have an if we behave badly with our children. Let's say a father has an argument with his son, and the father wins. Does he win? He really doesn't win.
What do we mean by winning?
Exactly. So I think part of the discipline of possibility is to act in a way that creates possibility. And if you don't, you pay a price for it. As a conductor, I'm constantly in this position where people depend on me for their livelihood. They see me as up there, I'm the maestro, right? And if I misuse that or I abuse that privilege,
it's double responsibility.
It's a double responsibility. And we forget sometimes. But the good thing about that is that we have coaches. I have a coach, and I put white sheets on the stand of all the musicians. Boom! If I say something, I hear about it, and I welcome it. So coaching is you cannot coach